Our bodies are really good at helping us find rewards and helping us build habits. Our bodies are really good at that, like seeking out the thing that's going to bring us the most pleasure, that reward behavior, and also establishing routines, which establishing routines is really helpful. I don't know about you, but I rely on my autopilot a lot just to get things done while I'm focusing on other stuff. But our bodies, while they're good at finding rewards and building habits, they're not great at recognizing which rewards are beneficial and which habits are helpful. They're just whatever habit and whatever reward. If I asked you, if you're thirsty and I asked you what you wanted to drink, or I offered you something to drink, I offered you a Coke and I offered you water, which one are you going to choose? Maybe through your willpower and through just your higher intellect, some of you are going to be like, man, I want the water. But for a lot of us, the craving is going to be, I want the Coke. Except for Tiffany. She's just over such things. But, that's what we want. Or if I ask you what you want to eat and I offer you a choice between a salad and a donut, like, what are you going to choose? There we go. That one better? That one works better. We're good at choosing what feels good and recognizing what feels good, but we're not good at discriminating between what feels good and what's actually good. And those habits lead us into a lot of trouble. Those lead us into a lot of problems. And what can happen is that reward center that was meant for good and meant to be helpful for us, and that habit center that was meant to be helpful for us, has been hijacked by sin to the point that we can just go along on autopilot and end up sinning because of habits that we've established without really even making a decision to sin. We've just got ourselves in a routine of sin. And James is going to talk about that in James chapter 1. He's going to talk about that whole process today. Now, where we've been in James, we've been here for a little while now, but James is written to a group of people that have been spread by persecution. James is the brother of Jesus. He was really the lead pastor of the church at Jerusalem, and his congregation was spread by persecution. They've been spread all over the place. And most of them had to flee with whatever they could carry. They weren't able to sell their businesses, or if they did, they sold them for a pretty small amount. They weren't necessarily able to sell their homes. And again, if they were able to sell them for a small amount, and now they're scattered. They're without a church, they're without a pastor, and they're just kind of coming together. And James writes this letter to be their pastor, to help them as they're scattered. And he talks to them about suffering, and that's what most of chapter 1 is about. It's about suffering and how you respond to suffering and finding joy in suffering. But what he's going to talk to them about tonight is he's going to warn them as they are weak because they're suffering. He's going to warn them about the patterns that they can fall into when it comes to sin. So let's just read through what we're talking about today. We're going to be in James chapter 1, looking through verses 13 through 15. He said this, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, gives birth to death." James is writing about this because there was a pretty big argument at the time, both in Greek philosophy and Hebrew philosophy, about where temptation came from. Did temptation come from God? Because if temptation comes from God, you got a problem, right? If God is setting up the temptation, then you can you're just not going to be able to resist it, because God is smarter than you, he's stronger than you, he's more powerful than you, and he's setting up temptation, then you really have an excuse to give in to temptation. And so there was this argument, does it come from there, or does it come from Satan? Is Satan or some other outside force? For Greek philosophy, it wasn't Satan, but it's some outside force that says, hey, there's something else trying to get you to sin. And again, there's some excuses there, because if something else is trying to get you to sin, then you're battling against a power stronger than you. And so they would use that as kind of an excuse. But what James says is, temptation doesn't come from God, and God can't be tempted. We go back to the temptation of Jesus, and we see how Jesus faced temptation, that Satan threw temptation at him, but he didn't give in to it. He can't do that. And if he can't be tempted, if he's not lured into evil, then he's not going to put you in a position to be lured into evil. So this isn't coming from God. It's not like it's something that you can't defeat. And it's not coming from an outside source either. You say, well, Satan tempts. He tempted Jesus. But think about the way that Satan tempts. Think about the way that you're tempted from an outside source. It's always temptation that you already struggle with, right? We've all got our own flavor of sin that we like best. For you, you might prefer the grape sin, and somebody else prefers strawberry sin. I don't know what kind of sin you prefer, but we've all got our own kind of sins. And the thing is, the sin I struggle with is not necessarily one you're going to struggle with. But the temptation I face is always custom designed for me. And when Satan came in and stepped into the circumstances with Jesus to tempt him, he was tempting him with things that his body was already telling him, he was already dealing with. He was dealing with those sins. And Satan, when he tempts you, is not going to tempt you with a plan that's designed for me. He's going to tempt you with things that you're already struggling with, that you're already dealing with. Your flavor sin is the sin that he's going to put in front of you. So it's not coming from outside. It's coming from inside. God doesn't tempt you. Satan doesn't tempt you. Temptation comes from within. It's what you already want. And that's a hard thing to face. It's a hard thing to understand why that would work out, why our bodies would work against us. But you think back to, what's your body going to choose? The donut or the salad, the Coke or the water? What are you going to choose? Your body's always going to lead you into choosing the thing that's worse for you but feels good in the moment. Salad never feels good, right? But it's always going to lead you. You can put that one on a t-shirt. It's always going to lead you into the thing that feels best, that gives you that best reward right at that moment. To understand this, we really have to understand what happens at salvation. And we talk about salvation a lot, and we talk about salvation as just, I get to go to heaven now, or I don't have to go to hell now. And both of those things are true. But what Jesus did is he saw our situation as people standing guilty before God, people who were trapped in sin and death, and he came to rescue us from that. And what Jesus did is he said, anyone who realizes that they're a sinner, anyone who recognizes that they're going to stand before God and be found guilty, instead of being judged on their actions, can be judged separately on faith. Instead of being judged based on how well you did in life, how good you did, if you did more good than bad, you're judged based on whether you placed your faith in Jesus or not. And if you placed your faith in Jesus, then instead of you being judged on your actions, he is judged on his actions, and you pass. The way that you receive that is by realizing that you're a sinner, believing that Jesus is the only Son of God, and praying, asking him to, crawling out to him and asking him to save you, to offer you that alternative. So you do that, and you're what we call saved. You're saved from sin. You're saved from death. You're saved from hell. You're saved from the consequences of your sin. That's what you're saved from. But there are some other things that happen. Most of us look at it like, hey, I've checked the don't go to hell box, and I'm good. But there's a lot of other stuff that happens. And one of the things that happens is we ourselves are changed. We are made up of at least two pieces, and there's different philosophies and different arguments that would say we're made up of more than two pieces. I don't care about that. I care about the two pieces I want to talk about. We're made up of body and spirit, okay? And what happens is he is going to make us new. He's going to resurrect us out of these dying bodies and into new bodies. But our spirit is changed immediately. If you've trusted in Jesus, if you've been saved, that terminology that we use, that's happened to you, you felt this sense of relief when it happened. It was just like a weight was lifted off of your shoulders. What's happening when you feel that is your spirit is dying. The sinful spirit is dying and is resurrected as a new spirit that's free from sin. But your body is still the same. This old meat sack is still the one you're carrying around until death. This is what you got. And so you have this problem because your spirit is new, your spirit is resurrected, your spirit is free from sin, but your body is not. Your body eventually will. You'll die one day, or Jesus will come back. And when that happens, you receive a new body that's free from sin. And at that point, your body and your spirit will be aligned. But until that point, you're like a jug of milk that's busted. The milk inside is good, but the container is bad and everything's running out and it's just gross. That's what's going on. That's what you've got right now. And so that leads to a struggle between the body and the spirit. Paul talked about this in Romans. He said, I do the things I don't want to do, and I don't do the things that I do want to do. What is wrong with me? Who can save me from myself? Only Jesus can save me from myself, because I have this war within me. I have this struggle within me. And you know what this is like. You know this is like. When you want to do the right thing, you want to have the spiritual salad, you know it's good for you, you know it's going to make you feel better, you know all the good things it's going to do, but there's the donut of sin right over here, and you're like, but I really want that too. And your body and your spirit are at war within each other. And a lot of us get really concerned about that war because we think, well, if this war is happening within me, I wonder if I'm actually a child of God. I wonder if I'm actually saved, because otherwise I wouldn't have this war. I would just want good things. That's the exact opposite of true. The truth is that if you don't have that war, that's a sign that you have a big problem, because your body and spirit are aligned in sin. It's when you have the struggle that it's an indication that you have been made new, that you have a new spirit. That's the indication. But you're always going to have that struggle back and forth, and your spirit is going to want one thing and your body is going to sabotage it. That's how that works. Your spirit is going to want the salad. Your body's going to want the donut, and is going to do everything it can to try to get you to choose one. And the thing is, the body is just broken. You know your body's broken. You're going to get sick one day. Your knees are going to wear out. Your hips are going to wear out. Your shoulder rotator cuff is going to get torn. These are things that happen to your body. They wear out and they die because sin has broken us. It's taken what was meant to be eternal and made it temporary, and they wear out. You know that your body doesn't want these things. This is why Jeremiah said that the heart is deceitful above all things. We have all these movies and all these TV shows and all these books that said, just follow your heart, which is the worst advice you could get. That's just terrible advice, to follow your heart, because your heart will lie to you and say, eat the donut, don't eat the salad. Your heart will say, but you're not in love with them anymore. You're in love with somebody else. So follow your heart. Just do what feels good. Leave your wife and marry your secretary. That's what your heart will say. Your heart's a liar, and it wants bad things for you because it just wants what feels good in the moment. It doesn't want what's actually good for you. Your heart is deceitful above all things. Your body will lie to you. And when James says, where does temptation come from? They say, well, it must come from God, or it must come from Satan. He's like, no, guys, it comes from you. You are the source of the temptation. Your body is sabotaging you. And there's a process that your body uses to lure you into this sin, to get you to get that reward. He says this in verse 14, each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. I feel like lured should be pronounced differently. Maybe it's a southern accent that I'm not pronouncing. I feel like there should be more to it there. Lured and enticed by his own desire. Each person is lured and enticed. And that's what temptation is. These are Greek hunting and fishing words, okay? Lured and enticed is like bait and a hook. That's what that is. That your body sets up bait and installs a hook to lure you in to sin. Your body wants these bad things. Your body wants the spiritual donut. Your body wants sin. Your body wants a new person. Your body wants to go after whatever feels good. And so it sets a trap to get you to go into that. It sets up an environment where you can actually sin, to get you to go into that environment. And when you get there, it lays out bait and says, this is going to feel good. This is going to taste good. Let's go for it. Let's get it. And hides the fact from you that within that bait, there is a hook. The second metaphor he uses is that desire, when it's conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's fully grown, brings forth death. He says this, he says that when you bite onto that hook, it's too late. Sin is conceived within you, and the end result of that sin is always death. That's what it always leads to. When you get pregnant, you're going to have a baby. By the time you get pregnant, it's too late. I realize that's not a perfect metaphor. Don't come at me about miscarriages. I get that. This is the metaphor that we've got. When you conceive, it's too late. You're going to have a baby. That's the way it works. And he lays out this 4-step process that you are lured into a situation where you will sin. You are enticed with bait that you want to grab onto, bait that feels good. Then you will conceive sin. When you bite onto that bait, it locks you in. And the consequence of that is death. Sin always results in death. The punishment for sin is death. This is the reason that we have to be saved in the first place. It's because the long-term punishment for sin is death, but there are short-term deaths that we deal with too. Death of reputation, death of relationship, death of confidence, death of self-control, all these things that we lose When we choose sin, we get this hook in us, and we can't go. Let me just explain what this looks like in a real world scenario. Let's just go on there. We're going to use my words because James's words are really great for the Greek reader, but not as great for the 21st century English reader. So we're going to use my words. Environment, bait, hook, consequence. That's lured, enticed, conceive, and death. Okay, we're just swapping out those words. What's the environment? Let's stick with a donut. Let's use the non-sinful scenario first. You work at work. You got a break room. People bring junk into the break room. You know that there's always a donut in there. There's always a crumble cookie in there. There's always something in there that you're going to be lured to. And as long as you're at your desk, you're not in the environment to choose that option. It's when you get up and you walk into the break room that you have the opportunity for sin in the first place. You get up, you walk into the environment, and that's when everything starts. Because you're there and you have the opportunity to sin. Then you got the bait, you got the donut, right? That donut, nope, stay there, go back. Just stay there for a while. We're going to be there for a while. So you got the bait, and the bait is the donut. And you know that donut doesn't taste very good, right? You think this is a Walmart donut, Tiffany. This is not a good donut. This is like low quality. If you put it in the microwave 15 seconds, it's better. But it's not, you know you're going to eat that donut and be like, why did I just eat that? Like, why? You know the donut I'm talking about. You walk into there and somebody has left the donuts out on the table, and now you've got the bait. And you say to yourself, you know what? I didn't feel that bad the last time I ate this donut. And I'm sure it tastes better this time than it tasted before. I'm going to get that sugar high. It's going to feel really good. And now you're choosing the bait. You walk over and you grab onto that bait and you eat that donut. But inside that donut, there's a hook, right? There's 200 calories in that low-quality donut. If it's a crumble cookie, you're looking at 600 to 800. It's terrible. There's a hook, and you bite onto that hook, and by the time you've done that, you've eaten that, you took the bait, it's too late. You're going to get done eating that. And here, what are you going to say? Why did I eat that? Why did I do that? It wasn't even that, it was okay. I feel kind of bad now. Why did I want that? Why did I go for that? You got the environment, the bait, the hook, and the consequence. You've eaten the calories. It's too late to get rid of them. Now let's talk about the actual sin aspects of that. You've got a friend. And when you sit down with that friend, you talk about things and you talk about people in ways that you know you should not. That friend is the environment. You walk into the coffee shop, you come over to the house, you do whatever with that friend, and now all of a sudden, you're in the environment to sin. You still have a choice, but you're in the environment to sin. And they start talking, and it feels good to gossip. It feels good to talk trash about other people. It feels good to have that conversation. And now all of a sudden, you've got a choice. Are you going to bite onto what feels good? Are you going to step into that situation or not? And you do. And it feels good at first, but then as you keep going, you start to feel the hook and you start to feel that guilt, and you realize that you are actively in the middle of sinning against God and against other people. But it's too late because you've already sinned that sin, and you can't undo that sin. It's there. Maybe your situation is when you're alone in the house and you go to websites that you should not be on because nobody else is around, and you're there alone, and you've got this opportunity, and the environment is that you're alone, which is you and your phone. And so you're there, and it says, you know what? Nobody will know. It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. And now all of a sudden, the bait is calling to you on that stupid phone, and you just open it up. It's not going to be that big a deal. It's not that hard. And now all of a sudden, you're in the midst of the bait, and you realize you've got the hook too. You've conceived sin. And just like the first one's going to damage a reputation, that gossip is going to damage that reputation. It's going to bring death to your ability to share the gospel with that person. It's going to bring death to your ability to disciple that person. Now you're damaging your relationships. You're bringing death into your relationship. You're bringing death into your own brain and rewiring the circuitry of your brain so that you're not functioning the way that you need to. You bring death into yourself, and now it's too late. You can't get it out. Maybe you're the person that you got to have your coffee. If you don't have your coffee, then you're going to be a huge jerk to everybody around you, and that's going to be your excuse for the day. So you got to have your coffee, and you drink coffee, and you drink coffee, and you drink coffee, and now all of a sudden you're on the other end of that drug, which it is a drug. You're on the other end. I'm not going Mormon on you. I'm just being real with you. The other end of that drug. You're twitchy, and you're anxious, and you're nervous, and you're mean. And you put yourself, by drinking over and over and over, you're drinking that coffee, or you're doing without the coffee, or whatever it is that sets you off in the morning. You didn't get up on time, whatever it is that puts you in that environment to be a jerk. And you start off and you're in the environment, and now the people around you are acting a certain way, and you know how good it would feel to just tear into them. You know how good it would feel to lay into them. You know how good it would feel to let them have it. And you do. You start saying things to these people that tear them down for no reason. You bite into them, and it feels good in the moment. But then you realize you've got a hook. You've got a hook in you, and it's too late to let go. And now you bring death to your reputation. You bring death to anybody who wants to come and talk to you. They're not going to talk to you about church. They're not going to talk to you about Jesus. You're not going to be able to speak life into any of them, and you brought death into your ability to do that. You walk into the environment, you look at the bait, you take a bite of the bait, and then you get the hook, and now you got the consequence. And you chose that. Your body sabotaged you. Your body wanted that. Your body set out the bait. Your body said, it'll feel good. It'll feel really good. It'll taste really good. Your body sabotaged you. Your body tempted you. And you gave in. And now you're like a fish with a hook in its mouth. And you can't get away from the consequences. Once sin is conceived, it will birth death. You can't get away from that. You say, well, I'm forgiven by Jesus. You are forgiven by Jesus. But you don't get to escape consequences. We have to talk about the difference between consequences and punishment. Punishment is when an outside force steps in and brings you something because of an action you took. An outside force comes in, interacts with you based on that. A consequence is just what happens when you do something. So let's say Beck is on the roof. I don't know how he got up there, but he's on the roof. If I was going to pick somebody to be on the roof, it would actually be Quinn. I don't think Beck would get on the roof, but Quinn is the one that's least scared of heights. But let's go with Beck. Beck is on the roof, and I say, don't jump off that roof. He's like, Dad, I've got a pillowcase. I'm going to fly. He's past that. He's not that dumb. But let's just say he said it. He says, I'm going to die. And I'm saying, I'm going to ground you. That is not the punishment I would actually give him if he jumped off the roof. Let's just say, I'm going to ground you if you jump off the roof. What is that? A punishment or a consequence? That's a punishment. That's an outside force interacting and saying, if you do this, I'm going to bring something to you. But what's the real danger of jumping off the roof? It's not the punishment. It's the consequence. What's happened? He's going to break his arm. He's going to break his leg. He's going to break his neck. Now, let's say I say to Beck, I'm not going to punish you for jumping off the roof. I'm not going to spank you. I'm not going to ground you. You're not losing the switch. I'm not bringing in a punishment. I'm taking that punishment away. But it is still dangerous for you to jump off the roof, regardless of whether I bring a punishment or not. There are consequences to jumping off the roof. You could die. You could break your neck. You could be paralyzed for the rest of your life. You could break your arm or leg. You could knock your teeth out. You could do all kinds of things. That is a consequence. And it doesn't matter whether I bring a punishment or I remove the punishment, the consequence still exists. And you might be free from the punishment of sin. Jesus might have forgiven you and rescued you, and you're no longer going to hell. You're no longer going to die forever because of that sin, but you are not free from the consequences of that sin. Just because you don't get grounded doesn't mean you don't break your leg. And when you step up and you grab that consequence, you grab that sin, you are going to have the consequence. Something is going to die because that's what sin does. And you don't get to say, well, I'm forgiven, so it's okay. You're forgiven, so you're not getting grounded, but you're still going to have a broken leg. And we got people that gossip. We got people that tear each other down, that sit around in these little circles to destroy each other, and they think, I'm forgiven, so it's okay, but the consequences still exist. And we got people that huddle alone with their phones, and they think it's okay because I'm forgiven, but the consequences still exist. And we got people that think they don't have to restrain their behavior when they talk to other people. They don't have to be careful about how they speak to people. They don't have to be careful about how they represent Jesus because they're forgiven. But the consequences still exist. There's still consequences for your sin, and that consequence is death. And I don't know what's going to die. I know you won't die forever because of Jesus, but I know that something's going to die. You think you can share the gospel with a person when you get done with that? You think you can disciple when you get done with that? You think you can speak life into them when you get done with that? But then there's the habit. Because this is the first time. We're just talking about the first time or the second time. But let's get into the habit, the part where you end up sinning without even trying to. You walk into the break room and there's the donut and you do it one time and you think, man, I shouldn't do this. It's not going to be very good. I shouldn't do this. I'm going to feel bad about this. I'm going to regret this. But you say, it's going to be so good. Surely it's better than last time. And you eat that. And now it's too late. And you're like, I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again. Next time I'm not doing it. And then you walk in, and by the time you get there the next time, you've forgotten about the hook, and you do it again. Like, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again. I'm staying away from that. That was bad. I didn't enjoy it. It was good at the moment, but and then you do it again. And then you do it again. And now you're not even thinking about it. It's just what you do. You walk into the break room to see what's in there. You walk into the situation and see what's going on. You don't even think about it anymore. You're not deciding to sin anymore. You've created a habit loop and your body's taken over, and you just walk into the environment, you look at the bait, you take a bite of the bait, you get the hook, you got the consequence. You do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And you're not even choosing to do it anymore. It's just a habit. You start to yearn for the sin because you've gotten so used to it, because it feels good in that moment. It gives you that spike of pleasure for just a moment that you start to yearn for it, and you're doing it without thinking about it. And then you're turning your brain off. You're turning your brain off so that you don't even have to think about it, because you know that you're going to want to resist it. And then you just get in this loop and this system, this habit system that was meant to help you get from your house to work, that Jesus created in you so that you could carry out basic tasks over and over and over while focusing on something else. This habit loop has been hijacked and is leading you into sin, and your body is pulling you into this loop over and over and over and over. And you're not even choosing it anymore. It's just happening. It's who you are now. It all starts because you walk into that environment for the first time where there's an opportunity for sin. You decide to choose the pleasure of momentary sin over the pleasure of serving God. You bite into that hook, and now you're stuck, and something is dying within you. Paul said, I do the thing I don't want to do, and I don't do the thing that I do want to do. Oh, wretched man that I am, who can save me? None but Jesus. And here's what I want you to know. If you're stuck in one of those habit loops where you're just walking into the environment and you're picking up the sin and you've got the hook and you're doing this, you do not lose your salvation because of this. You don't change your status before God because of this. You are saved from your sin. And Jesus died for you while you were still a sinner, knowing that you would still be a sinner, knowing that you would still struggle with this. He died for you and forgave you for those sins. He did that for you already. He forgave the sins that you have already committed and the sins that you'll commit in the future. You are released from the punishment for sin. But that doesn't mean you're not killing yourself. It doesn't mean you're not killing your opportunities and your relationships. It doesn't mean you're not breaking your brain. So what do we do? What we want to do is we want to start at the end. We want to start with avoiding the consequence. That's what our tendency is to do. Just avoid the consequence. Couldn't think of the word there for a minute. That's what we want to do, is we just want to hide from it. So that's what we do. We hide the sin, right? We hide the sin so that nobody knows about it. Because if nobody knows about it, there's no consequences, right? Or we justify the behavior and we say, well, we're really just having prayer requests, so it's not that big a deal. I just care about them so much. We say, well, they had it coming and they deserve that. And I'm just speaking truth into their life. We try to avoid the consequence. We don't try to change the behavior. We just try to make it so that we can hide from the consequences of what we've done. But that doesn't work, because you can't hide from it. Death is coming to whatever it is. Once it's conceived, it is birthed. That's how this works. So we have to start at the beginning, not the end. We have to start with the environment. Okay, Tori, now you can go into that. We have to start at the environment first. Where is your break room? Not literally. Stick with me. Where is the break room for you? Where is the place where you have the opportunity to sin? Is it being with that specific person? Is it being home alone in a certain time of day? Is it not taking care of yourself or allowing yourself to get into a position where you've not had enough sleep, or you've had enough coffee, or you've had too much coffee, or whatever it is? What's your break room? What's the place where you get to and you have the opportunity to sin? Find it. Just think about your flavor of sin. What is it that you like? What is the sin that you're tempted towards? And what's the break room that'll get you in the position to sin that sin? Now stay away from there. Eat lunch at your desk. Don't go in the break room. Stay away from that environment. Get you a flip phone. To have a conversation with that person and say, look, I'm not going to talk to you anymore alone because we just talk about these things. Or if we're going to talk, it's going to have to be about other stuff, because every time we get together, I don't like who I am. I don't like who I become. I don't like what we talk about. I don't like the way that we talk about people. I can't do that. Have that conversation. Go to some people and say, look, when I get this way, when I've not had enough sleep, when I've had too much coffee, when I get stressed out, I become a jerk. And I know that I shouldn't be a jerk. I know that doesn't represent Jesus. I know it's bad for me. I know it hurts you. I need your help. I'm going to try to stay away from those things, but I need you to step in and remove that environment. Remove the position that it's okay for me to say those things. Step in and do that. Remove the environment. I don't know what your break room is. Stay out of it. Because if you stay out of the break room, you never have to worry about taking the bait. Stay out of the break room. Find your environment. Second, I need you to be honest about what your bait is. What's the thing that gets to you? What's the thing that draws you in? For some people, the Coke doesn't do it for you. For some people, the donut does it for you. I don't know, and I don't care. What's your sin of choice? What's the flavor of sin that's going to draw you in? What's your bait? Acknowledge it to yourself. Acknowledge that. Be honest with yourself. This is my weakness. This is what I'm going to go for. I've got to stay away from it. Be honest with what that is. And remind yourself how it feels to eat that. Remind yourself how that donut feels when you eat it. Like it looks good. They make it look good. They put it on the table and they put it in the box and it looks good and it looks shiny and it looks like it's going to taste so good. But remind yourself, you know what? The last time you ate that, it did not live up to your expectations. It didn't taste as good as you thought it was going to taste. And when you ate it, you felt so bad because of eating that. You regretted it immediately. Remind yourself about the bait and how it's not everything that it's chalked up to be. And then I want you to look at the hook, the sin that's inside it, the death that's inside it. What is the death that comes every time you do this? What's the death that comes every time you eat this bait? Remind yourself, you know what? I couldn't look that person in the eye anymore when I got done. Or I got in trouble at work because of that. Or whatever it is, like I can't live with myself. It affects the way that I interact with other people. I wasn't able to share the gospel. I wasn't able to disciple. I wasn't able to speak into their life because of that. Remember the hook. And when you walk in, pray. If you've got to go in the break room, if this is something you can't get away from because it's an environment that you just have to be in, pray, God, help me remember that donut wasn't that good. Help me remember how painful it was. Help me remember how it made me feel. Help me remember the consequences of that. Help me remember that there's a hook in there. We go on this men's fishing trip. That's the only time I fish. We go on a men's fishing trip. I don't really catch a whole lot of fish, but I catch a few fish. And we catch these fish, and you'll catch one. And sometimes you'll pick up this fish, and you can look at it, and you can tell that it's been caught before. You can look at it, and you can see like there's a scar here, or there's a little deformity on the mouth, or something's happened. It's been caught before. And you think to yourself, why would it be so stupid as to get caught again? And it's because it doesn't remember. And we're the same way. We just remember the shiny sugar. We don't remember the other things. Pray and ask God to help you. Stay away from the break room. Stay out of the environment. Remember what the bait actually tastes like, that it's not that good anyway. And remember the hook, the consequences. But here's the thing. You're going to give in sometimes. You're a sinner, and your body is going to win. So when it comes to the consequence, what do? Well, our natural inclination is to hide or to minimize or to make it seem like it's not that big of a deal. But if you want to beat this, that's not how you deal with a consequence. You deal with a consequence by being honest and open, by repenting of your sin to God and to the person you sinned against. Go to them and say, look, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. I shouldn't have spoken to other people about other people while I was around you. I shouldn't have been involved in this. I shouldn't have done this. I'm sorry, and I don't like who I am when I do this. I don't like this. Jesus has had to save me from this, and I need help for this. And you deal with your consequences openly. Your strategy of keeping the sin in the dark is not working. You got to drag it out into the light to kill it. And if you can't get away from the environment and you go in for the bait and you forget about the hook and you've got the consequence, deal with it openly. Some of you have some people you need to apologize to. Some of you have some people you need to repent to. Some of you are stuck in this habit loop and it's been over and over and over and you're not even sure how to get out. And some of you need to ask for help. And if that's you, I want you to know that this does not exist in isolation. It's not like, well, this is a day that I just happened to be here and we just happened to talk about this. This is for you now. God wants you to know this now. God's talking to you now. He's just using a broken microphone in me. He's talking to you right now about what you need to do. So what will you do? Will you stay in that habit loop? Will you keep going for the thing that destroys you? Or will you break out of it and break into the freedom that comes from choosing the things that God has for you and not the things that your body's craving, what will you do? Will you stand with me? Our Heavenly Father, we come before you, and I'm so grateful for the chance to gather together and worship and to open up your word. And I'm grateful for this example of what's actually happening within us, about how our bodies want to lead us astray, about how our bodies build these habits. And I ask, Lord, for help. Help recognizing that the bait isn't that good. Help recognizing the hook that's in there. Help remembering the consequences that come every time we give in. I ask that you would help us, Lord, to step in these situations that we're just feel stuck in, that we feel trapped in, and that you would help us to break free of this circumstance. I thank you most of all for forgiveness and salvation, that you have saved us from the consequences, from the punishment for sin, not the consequences, but the punishment for sin. And that even though we give into these things, we are still saved and forgiven. But I ask that we wouldn't lean on that, but would step into you and ask for help. Ask for help from the people around us and break free of this sin that holds us back. It's in Jesus' name I pray these things, Lord.